The Democratic Republic of Congo finds itself teetering on the precipice of a full-blown catastrophe. M23 rebels have stormed into Goma, the bustling capital of North Kivu province in the country's volatile east. This armed incursion has sent shockwaves through the region and beyond. Thousands of terrified civilians are fleeing their homes, desperately seeking safety from the relentless crossfire. The situation in Goma is dire. Hospitals are struggling to cope with the overwhelming influx of casualties. Resources are stretched thin, and medical supplies are dwindling rapidly. The city's infrastructure is crumbling under the weight of the conflict, with power outages becoming increasingly frequent. Fear and uncertainty grip the hearts of Goma's residents as they brace themselves for an uncertain future. The M23's advance has been relentless. They have issued a stark ultimatum to the Congolese forces stationed in Goma, demanding their immediate surrender. The rebels have also closed the city's airport, effectively cutting off this vital transportation link and further isolating the besieged population. The airspace above Goma has been declared a no-fly zone, adding another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. The Congolese army, supported by UN peacekeepers, is putting up a fierce resistance. However, the M23 rebels, armed with sophisticated weaponry and driven by a potent mix of political and economic ambitions, pose a formidable challenge. The fighting has already resulted in significant casualties on both sides, and the human cost of this conflict continues to mount with each passing day. As the crisis in eastern Congo deepens, fingers are being pointed at neighboring Rwanda. The international community has accused Rwanda of actively supporting the M23 rebels, providing them with troops, weapons, and logistical support. These allegations have been met with vehement denials from Kigali, but skepticism persists. Rwanda's alleged involvement in the conflict stems from its long and complicated history with the DRC. The Rwandan government has long been accused of meddling in its neighbors' affairs, exploiting its vast mineral wealth, and using armed groups as proxies to further its own interests. The international community is now grappling with the question of how to hold Rwanda accountable for its actions and prevent the crisis from spiraling further out of control. The accusations against Rwanda have strained relations between the two countries to breaking point. The DRC has recalled its ambassador from Kigali in protest, and there are growing calls for tougher sanctions against Rwanda if it does not cease its support for the M23 rebels. The situation is further complicated by the fact that Rwanda is a key player in regional security initiatives, making it difficult to isolate and punish without jeopardizing broader stability in the region. The international community's response to the crisis will be crucial in determining its trajectory. The United Nations Security Council has already convened emergency meetings to discuss the situation, and there are growing calls for a robust peacekeeping force to be deployed to eastern Congo to protect civilians and restore order. However, any intervention will need to be carefully calibrated to avoid exacerbating tensions and inadvertently fueling the conflict. In the face of this escalating crisis, President Felix Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo has called for a great and coordinated response to counter the M23 rebellion and restore peace to the troubled eastern region. He has condemned the M23 and their alleged backers, accusing them of seeking to destabilize the country and plunder its vast mineral wealth. President Tshisekedi has also criticized what he perceives as international inaction in the face of Rwanda's alleged aggression. He has called on the international community to go beyond mere condemnation and take concrete steps to rein in Rwanda and hold it accountable for its actions. He argues that the international community has a moral obligation to act decisively to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe in eastern Congo. Tshisekedi's call for a coordinated response highlights the complex web of regional and international interests at play in the DRC. The conflict is not simply an internal matter but rather a regional crisis with the potential to destabilize the entire Great Lakes region. Addressing the root causes of the conflict, including the illegal exploitation of mineral resources and the proliferation of armed groups, will require a concerted effort from regional actors and the international community. The president's call for action comes at a critical juncture in the DRC's history. The country is struggling to consolidate democratic gains after years of authoritarian rule, and the ongoing conflict in the east threatens to derail this fragile progress. The international community must heed Tshisekedi's call and work together to find a lasting solution to the crisis in eastern Congo. The international community has reacted with a mixture of condemnation and calls for dialogue as the crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo escalates. The United Nations Security Council, in a series of emergency meetings, has strongly condemned the M23's seizure of Goma and demanded an immediate ceasefire. The Council has also called for the withdrawal of all foreign troops from Congolese territory, a thinly veiled reference to Rwandan forces allegedly operating in support of the rebels. The East African Community, EAC, a regional bloc of which both the DRC and Rwanda are members, has also been actively engaged in efforts to de-escalate the crisis. The EAC held an emergency summit where leaders called for an immediate truce and urged all parties to engage in dialogue to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The regional body has also pledged to deploy a joint force to eastern Congo to help stabilize the situation. However, despite these efforts, the situation on the ground remains volatile. The M23 rebels have so far ignored calls for a ceasefire and have continued their advance, raising fears of a wider conflagration. The international community is now faced with the challenge of translating its condemnations into concrete actions that can help end the violence and prevent a humanitarian catastrophe. The crisis in the DRC highlights the interconnectedness of security and stability in the Great Lakes region. The conflict has the potential to draw in neighboring countries, reignite old rivalries, and further destabilize an already fragile region. The international community must act decisively to address the root causes of the conflict, including the illegal exploitation of natural resources, and work towards a lasting solution that ensures peace and stability for the people of Eastern Congo.